Hello everyone, welcome back to our Rhino and Grasshopper tutorial. Today we're going to talk about how to model this Leeza SOHO inside of Grasshopper and Rhino. Leeza is basically two separate tall buildings that's being connected by some bridges in between, which makes it the tallest atrium in the world. I am just going to show you some basics of how to sculpture this general shape, and then I will show you inside of Rhino how to build them in a manual way. Okay, so this is definitely a simplified version of this final model, and let's begin. First, this is a 45 stories tall building, and I would just say that the floor-to-floor height is 12 feet or 13 feet. Then you will see some complicated shapes in between the atriums, and then there are this crazy mullion outside. In reality, this mullion structure is much more complicated, but again, in mine, which is just a simplified version, it is just very simple. First, I will create an ellipse, again, move it up. Floor to floor height, I will give 13, and I heard there are 45 floors, so I will just type in 45. Again, we're going to use range. We explained it earlier. Since we have 45 numbers, we're going to bring it in, but it gives us 46 numbers because of the nature of range. So I'm going to go ahead and change the expression x minus 1. And then, of course, I will scale it. Factors are here. So I will come over here, use center, bring the centroids, and then I'll add those. It gives us a 0 because one thing over here is 0, and that's not allowed. So we're going to go ahead and manipulate those data a little bit. I'll pick a Bezier. Perfect. And then I will call this component evaluate curve. Again, it will just find the specific point based on the parameter you put it in. For example, if I put in 0, you just find pretty much the starting point of this whole shape. And then, so I will choose range. We have 45 curves here. So I will just, again, bring this 45 in. And then once again, x minus 1. So we will give it 45 output instead of 46. And then I will add to it. So it'll be something like this. But of course, that's because we didn't turn on the repair matricize. If we turn it on, it's like this. We can make it smaller by remapping it. And then we want to have something like this on this side, and also something like this on this side. And how we can do that? Well, it's pretty easy. We can just minus a data to this point, minus another data to this point, minus another data at this point. But towards to the center, data should be bigger, okay? So for example, this, we're going to minus something here, but it's going to be bigger, right? It's going to be bigger than somewhere here. So this graph actually fits our ideal relationship very well. So we're going to just use this. I'll show you how to do so in a second. So we're going to get those data, and then we're going to copy this one more time. We're going to subtract it. And of course, we better remap it also. So copy it, paste it here, right? That's just simply too big. So I'm going to put it here, something like that. And then on the other side, I'm going to draw another curve, like something like this, right? So how we're going to do that? Again, we're going to add a number here. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a number here. Okay, perfect. Let me hide this one. And now we can change everything by just changing the input here, right? We can change the original shape. And then right here, we can change the target. So isn't it great? And then also, I'm going to send it to the other side because this is kind of like symmetrical. So I'm going to just add another 0.5 here. That's pretty easy. If this is 0.2, this should be 0.7 because the whole length is 1. So half of the length is 0.5. We explained this many times earlier. And I will just go ahead, add 0.5. Same for this one. Let me make a copy. And then I will add 0.5. And then we got it. Okay, so we got something like this. And again, we can change all the inputs. Make it a little bit more dramatic. What I'm gonna do is I will just type modification 1.22. The next thing I'm going to do is I will group them together, and then I'm going to make a connection in between. It says like parameter is outside of the domain. That's because sometimes we add 0.5, it's over 1, but that's fine. The program understands it and like replace the number with the correct one. So don't worry about that. It's just a warning. It's not quite an error. So again, I'm going to hide this. Well, before we do anything further, let's take a look of what this shape looks like in the real life. As you can see that this atrium looks very complicated, but overall it's very simple. We have a shape over here in the top, and we have another shape like carved into this surface right here. And also we have something like growing out of it, like an egg shape. Okay, that's it. And our goal is to generate those shapes with Grasshopper. Again, let's take a look. We have something carved in right here, right? Same, we have something carved in right here, and we have some shape growing out of the surface in the middle. That's it. And we have some bridges that's growing in between. First, I'm going to pick up some of the curves to work on. For example, like the first 22 curves, because we have 45 lines. So I will just pick up the first 22. Okay, and then I will find the curve, use this, and I'll type in 0.222. It's starting from here. That's not what I want. I want it to start from this side. Okay, so I will just flip the curve by changing the input. Okay, so I got this 0.222. That's too big. Let me get something closer to here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I will get the range again. We have 22 numbers, so I'll plug it here, and I will subtract for 1x minus 1, so we can have 22 output. We see that it's something like this, but that's not what we want. We want some curve carved out like this. Again, we're going to use the graph mapper. Bring it here. Use Bezier. Okay, and make sure that this end of the data is at 0.5. So actually, I'm going to remap this one more time. 0.5. And then we're going to use those 2 points to draw a bunch of like circles in between. Right now, we see that right here, it's overlapped. That's not good. So we're going to change this one more time. And then I'm going to come over here to circle. Actually, I'll find circle fit. Okay. And right here, I have this point and this set of points too. I'll just graph them. So I'm going to go ahead and merge them. Bring this in. And we got some circles like this. That's exactly what we want. And then there are so many ways to do it. First, we can just bake it and cut them by hand, right? Or we can do it with Grasshopper. So to make our workflow easier, today I'm just going to show you how to do it manually later without using Grasshopper. It's actually pretty easy if you really want to do so. And then I'm going to come over, trying to do the same thing over here. And how we can do that? Well, pretty easy. Then I'm going to take all the data, copy it, and right here, I am going to reverse all the lines, right? Let's reverse it. Then we got it from the top to the bottom, but on the opposite side, right? So in order to fix that problem, we're going to change the input here. Right here is 0.036, right? This from here to here is 0.036. We're just going to use 1 to subtract it. So 1 subtraction. We're going to bring it here. So this side has been corrected. And on the other side, we're just going to use it one more time. Use 1 to subtract this 0.5. So we're going to use 1 to subtract this. And then we got it. So that's what we got here. Okay. And then we are going to worry about how to draw this like egg shape in the middle. All right, it's a little bit tricky, but it's not that hard. So remember, we got all the curves right here, right? So we're going to pick up all of them, and I'm going to select some of them in between because this shape starts from somewhere here, okay, and ends from somewhere here. It doesn't touch to the top, neither the bottom. So I'm going to pick up those curves. I will start from item 4. So the item 0, 1, 2, 3 will not be selected. All right, so I will start from this curve right here. And then they have 45 of them. So I will just use subtraction. And I will use 45 that we set up earlier to subtract 4 times 2. Because we only want to select the middle of them. And then I'm going to use this number. And we got this. So those are the curves where we're going to draw the little egg shape. And then I'm going to use this evaluated curve again. And of course, range. And right here we have 37. So subtract 1, which is 36. X minus 1 will be 36. And then let's plug it in. Take a look. Okay, that's not what we want. We want to have the center of the egg shape right here. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to use a graph mapper again. And then I'll draw some circles here. Radius, I'll do 22. Okay, so you can see that we need another graph mapper to control the radius. We want something like bigger in the center and smaller on the end. Okay, and right here, this is not good. We better just reverse it. So I'll reverse the data. And then I will just remap it, make it smaller. And it should be symmetrical. So I will just use 1, subtract. what I'm trying to do is make sure that the edge condition are roughly parallel, okay, to have a smooth transition with the surrounding shapes. So that's what I'm trying to achieve right now. Okay, now this looks roughly right. I'm going to change those inputs a little bit because in the end, this is where the bridge is going to be. We want to repeat this at this moment also. So I would rather use this mapper, replace this one, bring it here. Okay, I'll delete this one. So from the bottom to the top, it's going to be the same. If I change it here, it's going to be changed on both sides. For the circles right here, it's actually very tricky. Okay, so what we have to do is we're going to scale it on one direction. So you see that right here, they are just too bulky and we have to scale it down. And how we can do that is a little bit tricky. Here's why. Because we cannot just scale it on X direction or Y direction because they are not going to be uniformly scaled on X or Y direction. Let me show you what I mean. So if I scale non-uniform, and if I do X direction, 0.222, and I will plug it in, it no longer has any relationship to do with this surface. That's not going to work. What we want to do is we want to find, for example, the first curve right here, we can see this curve. We want to find a plane here. And this will be X direction and this will be Y direction or vice versa. And then we will scale it right here. Like we're going to squeeze it on this direction. In order to do it, I will come over here to vector, and then I will do construct plane. I will find those center points that we draw the circles based on. And then I will find the X direction. Let's define the X direction as from here to here, right? Here to here. Each layer has a different X direction. That's a problem. So we're going to just use this thing right here. It says X axis direction of plane. So we just going to go ahead and use the starting point to the end point to form a vector. So vector 2 point, and then I will get the start point and the end point. All right, and I'm going to plug this in, set it as X. Now look at it. It's all good, right? Now we can scale it on the Y direction because you can see that the green is Y direction and the red is X direction. Now I will just scale non-uniformly, and those are the circles, and the planes are right here. And X direction, we will keep it the same, and Y direction, we will do 0.222. Let's see, that's exactly what we want. Perfect. So I'm going to hide it, and we got something like this. And now I'm going to change it one more time between this shape and this shape, right? It's pretty much parallel from the top to the bottom. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's change this one more time. Perfect. Okay, now they look much parallel than before. Okay, let me bake it. And I will unhide everything else. Add this one. Again, the same drill. I'll isolate them. I'll type in split, select objects to split, cutting objects. And then I will delete everything here. And right here. Same, I will use those to trim all the curves. Then I'll go to here and trim it. Perfect. So, and then I'll join them together. Right here, something is wrong. So trim it, Control A, join together. Perfect. And then I'll unhide everything else. I will do the same thing here. Okay, perfect. Then one more time, hide this one. And select everything, join them all together. And the rest of it, what we're going to do is we're going to simply split again, select objects to split, select cutting objects. Okay, so we split them into 70 different curves. That's exactly what we want. I will isolate them, ungroup it, and delete them. Perfect. Again, we still have 35, group them. And split one more time. Select objects to split. Okay, select cutting objects. Okay, perfect. Now we can hide them, and then we can ungroup everything here. And I'm going to start to delete all the curves in the center. Now we're going to join them all together. And then I'm going to group everything. This is very exciting. Let's take a look what this looks like. Again, they have this kind of extrusion, okay, to hide the flooring and everything. So I will come over here to fillet. And then I will bring in all those curves. In the corner, I will do 3.3. See, it's way too big in some of the corner. So I'll do 0.5. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move them up for 5 units. And then let's take a look of the data structure. We have one list, and this list has 45 data items. And right here is the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to graph them and then merge them into the same group. So they will have 45 sublists, and each of those sublists has 2 items inside. Perfect. And we're going to loft them. Okay. I'm going to bake them. So now we have 45 surfaces, which is great. Okay. And then let me offset them. 0.5 feet is actually enough. Let's flip off them. Solid, hit yes. Okay, we got it. And then let's take a look of the shaded mode. And let's compare with our rendering. Looks good. And now we got all the things inside of atrium. And let's type rotate and type 0 and rotate it for 180 degree. Make sure you have a copy. And then let's take a look. This is what we got here. And this is what it looks like, right? Pretty similar, not exactly the same again, because it's parametric. It's not like mesh model. Make sure everything is perfect. So the problem that it doesn't look exactly the same is because like the egg shape, maybe we should scale it a little bit more. But right now we're going to go with this. I'm going to go to Grasshopper, and then I'm going to find all the curves right here. I'm going to bake them into a group. And then what I want to do is I will find the curves right here also. I'll type in rotate, type in 0, rotate it for 180 degree. Okay. And what I'm going to do next is choose split and select objects to split. Okay, I'll go to the top view and select cutting objects. Perfect. And now we're going to hide everything in the center. And ungroup everything. And let's take a look. We can delete everything. Perfect. And also I will delete everything here. Perfect. And also I'll select everything here. We group it, select everything else, we hide it, we group it too. Perfect. I'll rotate them for 180 degrees, click 0. Perfect. And then I will isolate them, join everything together. I'm going to select everything. I'll go to Grasshopper, select multiple curves, and I'm going to graph them. I'm going to go to surface, and we use edge surface. And now I'm going to bake everything into a group. Got it. Okay. So now I will offset it for 1. So I got a thickness for the flooring. And then I will unhide everything else. Now it's perfect. Again, I will rotate it for 180 degrees, make a copy. Let's take a look. So again, this looks great. Right. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take care of the facade. I'll delete this thing I offset earlier. Again, we have some problem here. I can simply solve it by doing some tricks. I'll hit all those surfaces one more time, and then I'll offset to the other side. So I'll just have an offset surface. So this time I'll offset everything for 2 feet, and then solid to yes, loose to yes, hit OK. And I got it, something like this. Okay. Now let's take a look. The shaded mode. You see this part doesn't have problem anymore. Unless we take the overall shape, which is right here. We bake it. We still have a little bit problem, but that's fine. We can go with it for now. And now I'm going to take care of the facade, and I'll show you how to do it. But of course, we have to ungroup it and delete the top one. And also, I will just rotate it to the other side. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take care of the facade, and I'm going to delete the part that's on our way. And I'm going to select all of those surfaces. I'm going to isolate them. And then I will come over here to Boolean. I will choose Boolean split. Hit OK. Select surfaces to split. I'll select everything except this. Enter. Select cutting and enter. Give it a second. Okay. And now we will go to the top view. I'll hide this. I will ungroup it. Now I'm going to group it again, hide it, and then I can delete everything. Now we're going to go to our next step, which is take care of these openings on the facade. And how we can do that? Well, we do need to consider some tricks here. First, I'm going to go to Grasshopper, and I will bake this surface. And then I will isolate those items. I'll select it. I will type rotate 180 degrees, and then I will choose split. I'll select object to split, select cutting objects, Hit OK. I will get those surfaces. I'll delete this one, this one, and this one, because they have the like openings in between. And then I will select those two surfaces. I will isolate them, especially this one. And then I will type in extract wireframe. I will send this to trash layer. And now I will delete those curves that's unnecessary. Okay, I'll select all the curves, make it a group, and I'll go to Grasshopper. Actually, I'll make a new file. I'll open, come over here, analyze direction. We see that the bottom one is wrong. So we flipped it, hit enter, we go back to Grasshopper. In order to avoid any kind of mistakes, I will just manually select them, select multiple curves, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hit OK. And then let's take a look. Okay, we loved it. It's good. But let's make sure that every curve has same amount of control points. So I'm going to come over here. I will go to curve. I will divide them. Say 20 is good. And then I will delete this one, change it to 30. And I will come over here to curve. And I will use interpolate. I'll loft them. I'll flatten everything. Perfect. Now I'll bake this one. I'll do the same thing to the other surface right here. Okay, same drill. Extract wireframe, write this one. Delete this one, delete this one, delete this one, this one. Go to Grasshopper. I'll do the same thing. I'll select multiple curves. I'll go to the front view. The bottom has some problem. That's because of direction. I'll flip it. Okay, got it. And then this part, let me give it less control points because it's much shorter. I will give it 8 and hit OK. Bake it. Let's check the image one more time. And we see that the actual mullion and the actual window is very complicated. Again, we are just going to simplify it. You see that they are all in an angle, and you can see part of the mullion, right? So again, we're just going to make a simple model. So we're going to avoid that problem. We are just going to simply divide the surfaces. I'll bring one surface, right click, select one wrap, and I will just use isotrim. And I'll come to math. I'll divide domain because we have 45 floors. So let's do 44. Okay, so it's perfect. We have 44. Let's do 30 for the V direction. I will just go ahead and bake this into one group. Same right here. I'm going to select this. And here I will do 8 on the V direction. The real construction file is much more complicated. I'm just being lazy here. I will once again hit rotate. The next thing I'm going to work on is structure. We see there are this kind of continuous piece right here. The reality is much more complicated, right? It's going to take a long while to figure out all the directions and to do the lofts. We are just going to do a very simple version. Right here, we find our curves in the bottom, and then we find those points, right? We're going to use those to generate those structure. Right here, we have all the control points. We're going to connect them into one curve. So we use interplate. So one curve, and then also another curve right here. And we want to have some sort of like relationship with the surrounding environment. So you can see that they are generating this kind of structure. Okay, so I'll hide most of stuff. And right here, we got our curves. Let's take a look of our circles. Once again, I'll select those curves, right? I'll select a bunch of them and use them to generate plans and to generate rectangles here. So in order to do so, I will select them right here. I select the first 22. I'll just take this and unreverse it, select those, and those points, right, we generated earlier are right here. So let's take a look. Those points are right here. And then I will use the same method that I made earlier, construct some plans. So right here are the curves, and right here we're going to make some vector 2 points, place it here, and then I will get those plans. I will draw rectangles on those plans. So I will type in rectangle, construct domain, -x, and then I will just loft them. Maybe a little bit bigger. Take a look. All right, this looks very similar. Like just do 3. We can even give it a radius, 0.22, and then break it. So now it looks much better. Okay, and then we're going to repeat this to all the corners. Same logic. We just have to find those starting points. And of course, right here, they have some special operations, and we are not going to cover that, right? The rest of them are just some tedious work to do. So what we can do here is I'm going to show you how to generate those bridges. So I will unhide all the surfaces that I hid earlier right here. And then I will just isolate it, bounding box, draw a line from the top to the bottom, delete it, divide it into 4 segments. I'll go to the front view, right? You can see that yes, perfectly matching to each other. And I'm just going to use this as a reference to split the surface. I'll use split and iso curve and change it to V direction. And just cut it here, here, right here, 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 and also the top 2. Hit OK. Give it a second. And then I'll just delete those surfaces. I'll group them, extend surface, select the edge to 11. And then I will just type in offset surface one more time. All the directions are correct. I will do like 8 meters. And hide everything. Hide the Boolean. And then we got it. Again, we have to generate those tubes here, the structure that I just showed you by using the same logic. And of course, I will just rotate it to the other side. And we will get something like this. This actually looks pretty cool. Okay, and let's look at the interior one more time. Right, again, this kind of structure will be repeated over here and here. It's pretty easy to achieve with the Grasshopper file that we just generated. Okay, so that's all I'm going to show you today for Leeza SOHO. And hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial and you can repeat by yourself.